of campusreform.org. Cabot, and would you begin with you on this idea about a very busy agenda here that Republicans hope, fingers crossed, isn't stymied by all things, you know, Comey and Sessions and who knew what and when about Russia. What do you think?
Well, for the media to actually cover President Trump's agenda, that'd be a positive thing. And heaven forbid the mainstream media actually cover issues for President Trump, because that would fight their narrative that this is the chaos presidency and that everything President Trump is doing is going to lead us down the road of despair. And so I think that no matter what happens today, the media already has their narrative set. It's that this is right around the corner for President Trump's impeachment, and that Attorney General Sessions could get up there and read the phone book, and the media would still portray it as the end of the world, because they want to do anything they can to try to discredit the president's jobs plan. And it's disappointing to see, because I think most Americans are far more concerned with a plan from the president to get the economy going, to get more jobs, specifically those trade jobs going. And there's a disservice being done by the mainstream media in not covering that, instead covering everything else.
Eliza, where is all of this going?
Well, I think it really depends, and I think you are right in that the media is covering the Russia stuff, but I also would argue, as a member of the media, that we do have someone covering President Trump. We have a whole White House team. We have people out in Wisconsin covering him. Part of the problem, and this is something that Republican senators are also saying, Lindsey Graham said this last night, is yes, this is being covered, you know, the investigation is moving forward. These hearings are in public. They are being aired. But another part of it is the president himself. He can't seem to get out of this narrative. He tweets about it. This morning he tweeted like 5 times before he tweeted about jobs, and he tweeted about the media.
No, you're right about that. He's his own worst enemy sometimes, and he feeds the beast. And as I've said here, he acts beastly doing it. But Ashley, if that's the case, should the president, it's fine to tweet, stick to the subject that he wants to tweet about, and it will do him the most good, not focusing on this stuff, but on presumably the economic stuff.
Correct. This he said, she said, and personal attacks on Twitter, and going after his own party and going after other members of the administration and calling the media liars. Like, you know, that's all fine and good, but that doesn't keep him on track with his agenda and job-setting narrative that he wants. And then you have, you know, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer trying to backtrack all of this and press, you know, polls every day and trying to say things like, you know, let's get back to the main point here, jobs, the economy. That's very hard to do when you have such an active tweeter-in-chief in President Donald Trump, who just can't seem to resist doing that. So if they really want to stay on track with this agenda, they really need to rein in his use of the 140 characters every day.
You know, what I worry about back and forth on this is that I believe that it's possible to get into this Russia stuff as much as you want, get into the economic stuff. I agree with what Cabot was talking about, that there are those who are looking at all of the above, but when we don't, Cabot, and disproportionately focus on this, and I can understand the argument we've been raising here that the media too can follow this and other things, but when I hear many in the media talking about not believing they have to be balanced about this, I worry. And the reason why Margaret Sullivan was writing in the Washington Post yesterday that is not a requirement. This idea of balance is not a requirement. That Trump is retreating to Fox News cocoon, she points out, because everywhere else you look, the coverage of him is overwhelmingly bad, as if that might not make some in the media pause to think, well, maybe it is overwhelmingly bad, and maybe you should balance that out. But Cabot, we don't. That's it. It's just not balanced out.
It certainly might help the president to lay low a little bit, not tweet as much, or at least not tweet the things that he is. But let's be honest, this is not about what the president's tweeting, because even when the president's not tweeting, the media narrative now becomes, when will he tweet? You know, what is going on? Did someone steal his phone? So it's still negative coverage even when he's not tweeting. So it's almost like he can't win.
Well, wait, why can't it be about jobs instead?
He does compound it. You know, I agree with you that the economic stuff, that's a good story to tell. The meeting with CEOs and the jobs, low unemployment rate, all of that. I mean, that's a fairly good story to tell. But I tell you, when he goes off on this other stuff and it justifiably ticks him off, I understand that. He's losing folks.
I agree, and I do think that this jobs issue this week should be a good week for him. Even moving forward, whatever happens today, I think he would be well served to stay away from Twitter, or at least stay on topic on Twitter, and to talk about this. I think the American people want to hear his jobs plan, because when they hear about the fact, bringing back these apprenticeship jobs, encouraging people that a 4-year college education is not for everyone. It's important that some people go out and work with their hands. Those are good jobs. Those are high-paying jobs.
Then cover it all.
That is a
Eliza,
message.
I want to quote from Sullivan's column in the Washington Post yesterday, because this stuck with me, and maybe too much so, because it's not my definition of fair and balanced, not the USA Today definition of fair and balanced. The idea of balance, she says, is suspect on its face. Should positive coverage be provided as if it were a birthright to a president who consistently lies, who has spilled classified information to an adversary, and who fired the FBI director who was investigating his administration? Certainly not, she says. That's why efforts like a New York Times op-ed pitch to say something nice about Donald Trump is so absurd. In other words, she wouldn't even entertain it. She doesn't even think it's necessary. That balance doesn't even have to come into the equation. What do you think of that?
I think that is problematic for reporters who are trying to be fair and balanced, because the argument is that things that are alleged to have happened or have happened make the job that we're doing today, covering something like the jobs or even covering the Sessions hearing, that shouldn't be clouding what you're doing.
What she said is the bad stuff is now assumed fact and the good stuff is assumed not covered.
I think that I would argue that that's not how we do things at USA Today. We really try.
I know you don't.
And that it hurts reporters who are trying to be fair and balanced, making that argument. And you should be putting op-eds of both sides, of all sides in your newspaper. That's why it's an op-ed.
I kind of know where the media is going to come across on that, and I accept that. It's a given. And believe me, I'm no apologist for the president, as regular viewers of this show would know. But Ashley, the one thing I do see is that whatever he's going to do now in Wisconsin will get lost in the Sessions sauce. Maybe that's just the way things are. But I'm just saying, again and again, this is what happens.
Yes, and I mean, you know, a lot of this has been created by his own, again, tweeting. Had he not tweeted, you know, a couple months ago on a Saturday morning about the Comey wiretapping and all of this other stuff and everything else, I don't think we would be focusing on any of this right now. However, with that said, I do think there's one striking thing there that you quoted from that piece, and that's the fact that had maybe Hillary Clinton been president, would they have written something like that too? Because some of the same things that reporter mentioned in there were things that had happened to her on that campaign trail when it came to lying and investigations and all of this stuff. So would it have been fair and balanced at that point had a, let's say, Wall Street Journal run a similar thing on Hillary Clinton if she had been president? I think we need to really take it back here and realize that the media has a job to do. They can report the news, but it does need to be fair, it does need to be balanced, and you can't just be one-sided in your coverage. Very,
very good. I will leave you all with this final line from Margaret Sullivan, because it sticks to the core of what we're talking about, guys. We've got plenty of things to improve on. She's talking about the media. Giving Trump gratuitous strokes is not one of them. I don't think she has to worry about that.